We know that Epstein was a terrible man doing horrible things, but was he trying to reseed an entire human race? Did he look at himself as a perfect person and feel that the world needed to be more like him? We're gonna be diving into that story today. As we do it, I'm drinking my morning coffee. Let me know what you guys are drinking as you enjoy the video. Thank you so much for subscribing. I appreciate it. Now let's dive in.
He wanted me to be one of those females that had these babies. It's really messed up. This is what he was planning on doing.
No really new ideas have come out. And I realized that we've been looking at using science and mathematics, and it's the wrong tool.
Today we're going to go a step further in our investigation into Epstein by uncovering what was really going on in Zorro Ranch, how Epstein was funding these scientists, and speaking to an Epstein survivor who says Epstein wanted her to be a part of his new kingdom, Babylon.
Now I like this because Zorro Ranch is the least uncovered place that Epstein would reside. The least amount of research has gone into what happened there. So diving into this today, for me, is a good thing. There it is.
Our investigation begins at Zorro Ranch. Located about 30 miles south of Santa Fe, New Mexico, Zorro Ranch is a massive 10,000-acre compound isolated in the high desert plains. At its center sits a sprawling 28,000-square-foot mansion designed in a hacienda style, featuring a living room the size of an average American home. The property was engineered for complete airtight privacy. It had its own runway, a helipad, a hangar, and a labyrinth garden. It was heavily secured with gates, cameras, and guards operating entirely outside the view of the public. But Epstein didn't just use this isolation to hide. He used it to pitch his master plan. During the early 2000s, Epstein used his wealth to bankroll and embed himself with elite scientists, including geneticists, evolutionary biologists, and artificial intelligence researchers.
Now, we sometimes forget Epstein wasn't just a man who was using young women. He was someone that was networking with extremely rich, powerful, and scientific people because he wanted to make a change in the world. And it was a change that was very twisted that we're going to be getting into today.
At elite dinner parties and conferences, he explicitly detailed what he intended to do with the New Mexico compound. He told these scientists that Zorro Ranch was going to be his personal breeding facility. His plan was to keep up to 20 or 30 women on the property at any given time, where they would be simultaneously inseminated with his sperm. By treating the ranch as a high-tech genetic hub, he intended to systematically seed the human race with his own DNA. Eddie Aragon is the host of the Rock of Talk radio show based in New Mexico. Now, Eddie spends a good majority of his time uncovering what Epstein was doing at the ranch. His fascination was prompted by an email he was sent by an employee of Epstein's that read, "Edward, this is sensitive, so it will be the first and last email depending on your discretion. You can choose to take it or trash it, but this comes from a person that has been there and seen it all as a former staff at the Zorro. The material below was taken from Jeffrey Epstein's home as my insurance in case of future litigation against Epstein. Sorry, no questions. What is damning about Jeffrey Epstein is yet to be written. Did you know somewhere in the hills outside the Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried on orders of Jeffrey and Madam G. Both died by strangulation during rough fetish sex."
I turned it into the FBI. 3 days later, I did an intake with them. You know, it's a very serious piece of paper with 7 crimes listed, in addition to the murders of 2 women who have not been found. According to the latest report that came from Scripps, not only did they mention me by name, but they also mentioned that there are 2 missing people here in New Mexico, and that is out of the mouth of the Land Commissioner Stephanie Garcia Richards in that interview.
Can you speak to the credibility of this individual who sent you this email?
He was a family member of a person who worked on the ranch from January of '96 until June of 2012. This young man would have grown up on the ranch. He has had 1 interaction with Jeffrey Epstein. The key of all this is who had access to the house. This is very similar to Palm Beach. Remember the monitors and all the stuff that was stored on DVD-ROMs and stored on CD-ROMs. The email shows that it's truncated and it matches exactly the syntax that the FBI was able to go into Palm Beach and pull those same style of recording, etc., etc. That particular document that I submitted wasn't entered in until almost 2 years later.
Reports say that Epstein became obsessed with what is known as transhumanism. but he still needed a team of scientists to achieve this. To make this dystopian plan a reality, Epstein needed mainstream scientific credibility. So, he targeted two specific schools of science that directly aligned with his obsession. The first one, evolutionary biology. This was the primary vehicle for his interest in eugenics. His largest known academic donation, $6.5 million, established the program for evolutionary dynamics at Harvard. He used this money to get close to researchers working on gene editing, attempting to find a scientific shortcut to engineering superior humans. Check out these pictures of Epstein and others meeting in the exact department he donated that money to. Now, the second school was evolutionary psychology and sociobiology. Epstein funneled massive amounts of cash into researchers studying human behavior, mating strategies, and natural selection.
Can we put a number on how much I care for my wife? Can I put a number on how I feel? To some extent, science doesn't describe romance. I don't know why I'm attracted to somebody.
He heavily funded work exploring why humans behave the way they do, specifically tracking how genetic traits affect social hierarchies, aggression, and reproductive habits.
Research institutions take money from all sorts of sources. Most, if not all places, will try to make sure that the money they are taking is being used for legitimate and respectable science. But even a crank like Epstein, with a desire to make super babies, there is legitimate research about trying to understand human genetics, human reproduction, the roots of intelligence that an institution could do with that money that wouldn't particularly advance his own special agenda.
Now, he said super babies. The strange part is what makes Epstein and some of these scientists engaging in this believe that Epstein's genetics would produce super babies. I don't know many things that are super about Epstein that we would want passed down from generation to generation. I mean, the guy is a terrible person. The genetics there aren't good.
Derek Bach at Harvard said, taking money for good causes is a good thing.
His views, as I understand them, do fit into sort of a long-standing fringe set of beliefs going all the way back to Francis Galton, who was Darwin's first cousin, one of the founders of statistics, but also the coiner of the word eugenics. He was worried that good British women weren't having enough babies, and working class, poor, stupid British women were having too many babies. So back 150 years ago, this kind of idea was already present, that accomplishment was strongly, powerfully determined by genetics and by parentage, and that we needed to take steps to make sure that good parents had more good children.
And it seems that they're calling good parents people that are wealthy, higher class people. Were having less babies than the people down in the slums that were just popping out babies, people that did not have a lot of money, did not have the best of careers. In my opinion, that does not make a child better than another child, a social class. It's not strange that a person of high class would believe that, especially back in the day, but it's the first time I'm hearing of it.
He allegedly was obsessed not only with transhumanism, but also other scientific subjects like cryonics, an unproven science in which people's bodies are frozen to be brought back to life in the future. According to the Times, Jeffrey Epstein told one scientist that he wanted his head and penis to be frozen in hopes of future resurrection.
It says to me that Epstein had an overly high opinion of himself, and also, though, that he was terribly poorly informed about the realities of human genetics, particularly with respect to human behaviors. Genes just aren't that important in terms of improving or higher, better human behaviors.
So why did Epstein have such a wild obsession with seeding the human race? Introducing Rena O, an artist and prominent Epstein survivor who experienced his circle firsthand.
At the time, I didn't understand what Babylon was, so I referred to Babylon in my own way as the harem.
Babylon was the ancient world's ultimate superpower. Under Nebuchadnezzar II, it was the richest, biggest city on earth, famous for wealth and engineering marvels like the Hanging Gardens. But today, its weight isn't historical, it's biblical. In Revelations, Babylon is the code word for decadence and corruption, so total that its fall becomes divine judgment. So when someone says they want to recreate Babylon, That's someone reaching for the myth of one man's total wealth, total dominion, and total rule over a civilization built in his image.
He always talked about the harem, and in harems traditionally, there are hundreds of women
Right.
who are slaves that belong to the Sultan.
And that's what it sounded like he was trying to do at Zorro Ranch, have his harem of women. He said he wanted to have 20 women on hand. And as this survivor just stated, they were basically treated as slaves.
And he constantly referred to the Sultan. I do not doubt that he is that Sultan that he spoke of in the third person.
Stop right there. Sultan is an Islamic Ottoman title for an absolute ruler, total civil and political authority, answerable to no parliament, no check on power, a system the Ottomans ran for roughly 600 years. The harem is a ruler over a private enclosed world of women, answerable to nobody but himself. That's what separates it from king or emperor. Those words just mean power. Sultan means power plus a captive population of women who exist solely for him.
He never straight out came out and said, I am the Sultan. He just said, the Sultan this and the Sultan that. Often talked about hundreds of offspring that each sultan from the Ottoman Empire would seed. And he used that word a lot. I believe this was his ultimate plan.
Wow.
And so there were multiple wives that he was planning on having, and lots of children, probably at least several hundred, if not more.
Wow.
Historically, a lot of these sultans have owned up to or more than 1,000 women, and he and sultans, they all referred to the females as slaves.
It's interesting to me that all of this planning, especially with Epstein's age upon when he passed, he never did have any children. But all of these plans are being set in place for him to have hundreds of children, yet not one was born that we know of.
They're not even considered to be people. Once you enter a harem, you can never leave. And it doesn't matter who you are in the harem, there's always a hierarchy. Even the wife is considered to be a slave. You can't leave. Well, he wanted me to be one of those females that had these babies. He said, when you, Rena, have a baby with the Sultan, you will immediately become a wife. It's really messed up. This is what he was planning on doing. He was obsessed with DNA, and he was obsessed with certain genetic characteristics. And with me, a lot of it had to do with my creativity and intellect. Also, I speak multiple languages. I'm able to pick up on languages very quickly. He was also obsessed with my skin for some reason and hair. Like, he just referred to different body parts and also like different like attributes of who I am as a person, but never really like as a whole. And if you view his art collection, this is how he viewed females in general. You barely see in his collection where he has an entire female figure that's portrayed like a human being, like an actual, you know, personality. It's always a body part. So that says a lot about the way he views,
Interesting.
like, you know, females, period. He views them as a hand, or he views, you know, a female as a torso. You know, if you go through his catalog, or what used to be his catalog of his art collection, he has weird art, but there's this pattern of collecting works of the human body that are just body parts.
It seems that he was infatuated with elements of perfection, or at least what he felt was perfection with certain women. So as that survivor spoke, her hair, her skin, and her brain, right? Her knowledge, her ability to capture many different languages, speak different languages. So I'm sure that in his harem, or the harem that he was building a catalog of characteristics that he thought encompassed perfection.
The weirdest thing I saw were these sculptures of newborn babies that were scattered around the house, and you kind of had to really dig and look for them. They were in hidden places, like, you know, there were some that were in the bookshelves, in between books, and there were these deformed newborn babies, and he thought it was so cool, and he was showing it to me and telling me, like, your artwork is too pretty and too nice looking. You should make stuff that looks like this, you know, like weirder. I want you to go in this direction because this is what I like. He didn't like things that were conventional and that were pretty. He did use the word, I don't like things that are too pretty. Mentioned that he knew a lot of scientists that were working in research at the top universities, and he said he knew everyone at Harvard. That's the one school I do remember.
It's a serious question.
Sorry.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
The one thing that sits with me after watching is, does he have any children? It's hard for me to believe with the amount of abuse that he put towards so many different women that no children were conceived. Now, talks have been had that children were potentially ended, but were any children actually survivors? And this is what we need to dive into next. To dive deeper into more Epstein related content, check out this video, and I'll see you guys over there.